Welcome back, welcome home. It's Justin, your local real estate agent. I hope you're having an excellent, wonderful day. And today, for all my co-op buyers, prospective co-op buyers, if you want to know how to get around the co-op board when buying your unit, stay tuned. Got the secret sauce here for you. All right, if you're looking to buy your co-op and not have to go through getting approved by the board, which is the big reason a lot of people don't get approved for co-op units, you're gonna be looking for what we call a co-op sponsor unit, okay? So a co-op sponsor unit is simply a unit that is owned by the original developer or owner of the entire building. They were there before the co-op board and they created the co-op themselves, so they do not have to answer to the co-op board when they're seeking a buyer for one of their units. This is in contrast to people who are not the sponsors of the unit, buy a unit, and then go to sell it themselves. That's called a resale unit. So if it's a resale unit, it has to go through the board. If it's a sponsor unit, does not. Now there are three big benefits that come to buying a co-op unit without having to go through board approval. And the last one we'll mention, I think, is by far the most important, okay? First, no interview. I know you didn't want the interview, and if you're buying a sponsor unit, you don't have to worry about getting interviewed by the board members. You're good to go. Second thing, no board package, right? The board package is part of your application process. There's a ton of paperwork usually that you have to submit, and your lovely realtor will put together the package for you and make all the copies and create the binders or whatever the board asks for. We'll get it done. But having to do all this, very time consuming. You're looking for documents you may not have seen in a while. You're filling out a very detailed application. You can get around all that stuff and just say, hey, I gave it up to the bank already, I'm good to go. Save yourself some time. Number three, and by far the most important, I believe, is the guidelines that the co-op board has in place for buyers. We're not subject to, right? We're buying directly from the sponsor. So if the co-op building says, hey, you're required to have a 30% down payment to buy this unit, if we buy a sponsor unit, we may not have to do 30, maybe we only have to do 20, maybe we only have to do 10. Now, besides the down payment, there's other criteria that the co-op board will have in place, right? Credit score, income, debt to income requirement. We covered that in a previous video, so I put the link to it down in the descriptions below for you. And of course, if there's any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. Now, of course, we talk benefits, so we gotta talk potential cons to the sponsor unit. But before we get into that, I got one major real estate key reminder that I gotta give you. When you buy a sponsor unit, you don't have to go through the board, which is great. But when you go to sell that unit yourself, it's now considered a regular resale unit. So the buyer who's gonna look to buy the co-op from you in the future will have to follow all the board guidelines, and they won't be exempt from them like you were, okay? Now, in terms of cons, we got three that we're gonna mention three benefits, let's mention three cons, keep it consistent. And the last con, I think, is actually the most important by far. First con, now when it comes to buying a sponsor unit, your closing costs might be a little higher than with the regular resale unit. That's because the sponsor might ask you to pay what's called a flip tax. And we have a video covering what the flip tax is, so you can check that out in the link down below. And they might also ask you to pay transfer taxes, okay? Now with the regular resale unit, seller is more likely to cover the flip tax or cover these costs if they're there. The sponsor, don't be surprised if it's part of negotiation that you as the buyer will have to pay those costs. Second potential con, when it comes to a sponsor unit, that unit might be a bit outdated, might need some work to get it up to the standard that you expect today, right? A lot of times sponsors have rented out their units for a long time to tenants, years, decades, depends. They're the sponsors, they didn't have to follow the rental guidelines of the co-op like other unit owners do. So now when it comes time to sell, if they had a tenant there that whole time, that unit might need some work. So just have that in mind when you're looking at a sponsor unit. Third potential con, well, it's not a con. Well, it's a con because I told you there were 3 cons and there's only 2 cons. But this con is actually a bonus. All right. So there's a free co-op guide that you can download. It gives you the home co-op buying process step by step. Right. I even put some graphics in there for my more graphically inclined folks. So you can use the link down in the comments below to get your free co-op guide. Of course, if you have any questions about co-ops, response units, drop them down in the comments below. I'll get right back to you. And be sure to slam that like button. And new folks, hit the subscribe. We got weekly real estate information for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.